And now, live from Vaughn's apartment, it's Poppin the Scary Horror Podcast! We're Poppin the Scary Horror Podcast here. I'm your host, Coale, and as always, we have our co-host and my good friend, Aaron. But this episode is really special because we have a special guest star with us today, and it's our good friend, Vaughn. Say hi to the audience, Vaughn.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, okay. All right, so that was an interesting introduction from Vaughn, all that good stuff. So this episode, we're watching Hellraiser, and with Aaron, he hasn't seen Hellraiser, but Vaughn, you're kind of like me in the fact that you're a big fan of horror and stuff, and you saw Hellraiser a long time ago.
I love scary movies.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do you have like a favorite movie, just so the audience keeps in mind kind of like where your niche in horror is?
It's not really fundamentally scary, but I think Jacob's Ladder is probably my favorite horror movie.
No. Yeah, I think that's definitely a solid choice, especially being a major influence for the Silent Hill games, which I know is like Is it your favorite video game franchise?
It's up there for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah, no. And, maybe eventually we'll be able to get on there and maybe bring you back on for that one, especially since it's your favorite. Yeah, but...
You thought about doing the Silent Hill movie? That'd be kind of funny.
Oh, yeah. Maybe down the line and stuff. I think we're just going to be getting the hard hitters, not the ones that just hit hard in the wrong way sort of thing. So with Hellraiser and stuff, I know you saw it like a while ago and stuff, and was there ever any relationship you had to the Hellraiser series in the past and stuff?
It's like my mom's favorite movie, so that's how I saw it the first time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was always interesting because my relationship with it prior to seeing it like fairly recently and stuff is I'd always remember the box art where it shows Pinhead, holding the lament configuration and stuff. And funny story about it, I would always see it at the video rental store, and I didn't realize like the light was supposed to be like a ethereal sort of like light emanating from the box. It looked like he was just holding a firecracker and stuff, especially with the jagged stuff. It just made it look like a sparkler fuse going on there. Mm-hmm. But but aside from that, I didn't really know anything about it too much. The first time I did try watching Hellraiser actually was on TV and stuff, and without getting too big into the whole movie and stuff like that, I watched it on TV and they had censored a lot of it, so you can imagine if it was censored, it would cut out a lot of the stuff you're trying to understand what exactly is going on.
Yeah.
Especially at the very beginning.
True.
Yeah, for sure. Aaron, did you ever have any idea what Hellraiser was prior to watching the film?
I only heard the name of this film yesterday. I had no idea.
Really? You had no idea about Hellraiser or Pinhead?
I'd seen Pinhead before. I've seen he's like a character. I've seen him. Honestly, I kind of thought he was had something to do with a metal band or something. I don't know. But whenever you guys were talking about Hellraiser and Pinhead, I was like, oh, that's the bad guy in the movie. He's the one that's killing people, and he killed 0 people. So I don't know, he's probably killed a lot of people, but on screen, 0 deaths. So he's got to boost that KDA up.
Yeah, he's got a long ways to go because he's kind of like one of the more interesting horror icons in the fact that he's not your typical like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees kind of guy. Again, he's pretty passive and stuff, so I'm sure that was kind of also interesting think for you, because I'm sure going into it, you were kind of expecting more of a slice 'em, dice 'em sort of thing.
Yeah, so, I mean, so far, like, even with, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Leatherface, and Halloween as the Jason. Jason seems like a nice fellow.
He's pretty cool.
Horror movies to me, for someone that doesn't watch a whole lot of them, is like has the killer, and that's part of what makes them spooky. Is the bad guy, you know what I mean? And so I just assumed that this was the bad guy because he was like the one icon that whenever we were talking about Hellraiser and Pinhead, I was like, oh yeah, I've seen this guy. I haven't seen any other people in this movie or anything else. So it's weird how little screen time even. Pinhead got in this movie. I know there's apparently a bunch more Hellraiser movies.
Oh yeah,
I assume that he plays a bigger role in those. But yeah, this one was like, he was just, and he was one of 4 of the
Cenobites.
Cellophanes.
Yeah, the cellophane.
Yeah, he was one of the 4 cephalopods. And so he wasn't even like he was the most vocal of them, but it was weird.
Yeah,
I was almost gravitated more to Chattery Chipmunk Cephalopod Man.
Yeah.
It was like
Teeth boy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Chatterer. Yeah.
Although I understand Pinhead being the biggest design there.
Well, and I do want to mention a point about it, but he's played by Doug Bradley and stuff, and apparently in order to get into the role of Pinhead, he would stare at himself in a mirror until he could just see the inner evil within himself. So he'd just be staring there and stuff, just really intensifying on that expression and that stare until he just like lost sight of everything and just saw the evil within.
Yeah, nice method acting.
He's very serious, but he's really good with it. And before we kind of get into like more of the story itself, I feel like for people who haven't seen Hellraiser and stuff, we should give a brief introduction. I know a lot of people are kind of being reintroduced to him again with Dead by Daylight and stuff, which is why we're talking about it, because since he was added as a new killer, we were like, oh yeah, let's watch Hellraiser. So basically the story is a simple one, but definitely kind of like a big domino effect, where basically this couple, Larry and Julia, move in to this house that used to be previously occupied by Larry's brother, Frank, who had disappeared. And as we saw at the beginning of the film, he was messing around with the lament configuration, and basically he disappears from that. And as the movie unfolds, you kind of learn what exactly happens to him, and the fact that with the character Julia, she has a past with him, and because of that, it leads to a series of events that is just like one thing after another, and it's kind of like a crazy ride again. I wouldn't say it's as crazy as a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it's definitely kind of like, okay, this is like leading to a lot of chaotic things. So story-wise, whenever it comes to it, I really like the story of it a lot, because I feel like for the most part you get to know the kind of the main cast of characters again, because obviously what you see a lot in horror movies is the fact that they don't really focus on building the characters too much, but with Hellraiser it's very character oriented and stuff, to where everyone's names and they're kind of playing a bigger part again. Like Aaron mentioned, that the Cenobites kind of take more so a backseat, which is surprising, because you think, again, horror movie, they're going to be more of the face, but it's really interesting, and I think that's what makes me really appreciate Clive Barker's approach to it and stuff, especially since, he wrote the book Hellbound Heart, which this isn't another interesting tidbit of information, but whenever he was making the movie, he had thought about keeping the title Hellbound Heart, but really people were kind of concerned because it's like, well, it sounds more like a romance story than it does a horror movie. So he was trying to ask for ideas and stuff like that on what else to call it. And I guess there was an older gal working there and stuff, and she told Clive that he should name it What a Woman Will Do for a Good Fuck. Which I can't fault her for that. I think I think that's pretty dang accurate and stuff. So, Vaughn, your thoughts on the story and stuff? Like, how was it just seeing it again after all these years? Because I know you saw it once, like years and years ago, but knowing what you know now, how's the story for you?
I think I can appreciate the themes a lot more now that I'm older. Because as a kid, like, you don't know what the fuck's going on.
No.
Like, why are these people fucking, like, why is she killing people for him? Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. But, yeah, I kind of agree with what you're saying about the Cenobites, about them being, like, kind of a backseat thing. Makes them a little more interesting, because they're not, like, the focal point of the movie. It's kind of the fallibility of the main characters that's, like, the whole point of the movie, and the whole side story with the Cenobites and the lament cube and all that shit, like, just adds to it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And Aaron, like, you know, not knowing anything before and stuff, and after watching the film, like, what is your overall thoughts on, like, the story and the characters and the world and just everything that was told in Hellraiser?
It's a really interesting choice. I mean, like most horror movies, they let you know what the fuck's going on right in the beginning. At least, like, what I understand. Like, you know, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they show you they have the radio and the body parts on the cemetery. They give you the mood, like, yeah, this is gonna be some scary stuff. And then they get into the other stuff. Hellraiser here is like, they start out with, that sweaty, doing the golden cube, and then he gets split into a million pieces, and it's like, there's some spinning around. It looks like a bad carnival ride, you know? And there's all the meat and, gore, and you're like, this is what we're here for. And then it goes into the story, and it's, I think the characters were really interesting and fleshed out, and I think the story definitely followed that trope of, like, these are bad people and they're getting what's coming to them, you know? Like the people that did bad were the ones that, had bad put upon them. And not to get too far into spoiler territory, but, like, the ones that did good, or, like, were the better or more pure of heart characters, I guess, were typically the ones that were given, more chance. So.
No, definitely. And, I think that's just another thing with Hellraiser, which I can really appreciate, because, again, I feel like, as opposed to, like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the characters get a lot more development because, again, they're the more driving force and stuff. And, again, even though the characters in Texas Chainsaw Massacre weren't, like, super duper developed, they obviously worked well for this movie. Whereas this movie, if the characters weren't, like, so deep with their characterizations and stuff, I don't think it'd be effective and stuff, because I think, like, whenever it comes to Julia, I think she's just kind of like the perfect kind of sort of antagonist and stuff, and the person to kind of push the first domino over. And then you come to characters like Frank, who's, like, downright disturbing and stuff. Again, you start believing all these characters. And then with Larry, you genuinely feel like he's just trying to be a good guy, even though he is a little oblivious. He's still trying to be a good guy. Oh my gosh, love her. But I think Kirsty is super fantastic, just being super likable. And you genuinely were rooting for her the entire time, which I could appreciate. Because, again, it's just like, it's hard whenever movies stick you with a character and you don't really care for them at all. And so it tends to drag, but especially with Kirsty, which it focuses, I would say, probably on Kirsty and Julia about equally and stuff. It flips back and forth, but whenever it comes to both the actresses who played her, I felt like they were both really good. But obviously, I have a very, very soft spot for Kirsty, played by Ashley Lawrence, and stuff. So I could definitely tell she had a sense of genuinity whenever she did play it. Yeah. But, it's really good. And also, talking about other characters, I know we've kind of danced around the Cenobites, but, again, I gotta say, they have such a strong design to them. Like, they're striking.
Cool. Oh, yeah.
And another interesting fact about it is, you notice there's, like, a lot of, like, leather and stuff. I think... I can't remember if it was you or your roommate that kind of made the joke about it and stuff, about, like, it being, like, BDSM and stuff. around that thing.
I don't know who said that.
I
that
can't,
sounds about right.
yeah, something. Well, you're not far from it.
Yeah.
Clive was inspired by BDSM.
That's what it looks like. A lot of gimp stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he was really interested in that whole world and would visit a lot of those places to look for inspiration and stuff. Because again, the whole idea of the Cenobites and stuff and the lament configuration is supposed to bring you the greatest sense of pleasure but the greatest sense of pain all at the same time, which again, it's like BDSM. So I think like having that inspiration and Clive again kind of taking the helm of creating this movie, I think created some really finely designed creatures and stuff, because you look at them and again, like whether it's Pinhead, the female Cenobite, the Chatterer, or even Butterball.
Yeah, Butterball's cool.
No, like they're just all strong. You want to know more about them and stuff. It's just because they don't really explain a lot about them. They just kind of show up as soon as they start messing around with the lament configuration.
Yeah.
Cube.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Cube.
Yeah. That's the. It's like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Millennium Cube. Is what it is.
Yeah.
You're not wrong and stuff.
Shadowrun.
Right.
Yeah, they show it like working and stuff, but really it seems like the pieces just kind of pop out on their own and stuff.
Yeah. I like that the Cenobites are really fucking evil looking, but they're not even the bad guys.
No, not really. They're just doing like basically what the cube is.
Right.
You know, it's like they opened the cube.
Yeah.
They came as
They just exist. Yeah.
Yeah,
And everybody that opens the cube, with the exception of Kirsty, is like looking for some trouble.
Yeah.
And then they meet it. Right?
Yeah, for sure. And so I think that's just kind of the interesting thing again, because they're not like malicious beings per se. Like they could definitely be brutal with their way of execution, but really they're not looking for people. They only arrive if you open it, which is kind of like an interesting thing. And I think, again, just kind of adds to the intricacy and the wonders that Hellraiser has as a film that I can deeply appreciate a ton. Like,
I can agree with that.
Like, first time watching it, it just blew my mind and stuff, just seeing this whole world and just, again, because, again, I didn't feel like it was super tropey by any means of the word and stuff, like, but it's just one of those things that I just thoroughly enjoyed it and stuff, but...
Also,
man.
Visually, it's a really,
Oh
incredible movie.
my gosh, it's
practical
crazy.
effects are so good.
Yeah, I think whenever I think of practical effects in horror films, I honestly think of this movie and stuff, because whenever it shows Frank like returning to the world and stuff, it's unbelievable, because like even if you know their practical effects, just seeing like how in the world did they do that, there's just always a better sense of wonderment to it as opposed to like what you get with computer imaging.
It's incredibly visceral, and I like that.
No, it didn't hold any punches and stuff, with a lot of brutality. And again, I think just all the practical effects just paid off. Like, it just, you know, even for almost 40 years later, it still looks fantastic and stuff. So I definitely am super happy they just went all out with the practical effects, because again, it's just kind of like gruesome, jaw-dropping, but you also can't look away. So I think that's like one of the like strongest likes I have with the movie and stuff. While talking about it, is there anything you liked or maybe disliked about the film, Vaughn?
My only gripe, and this is only a thing with old movies, is when they do a little bit of hand-drawn animation for special effects. That drives me nuts. It looks a little bit like cartoony.
Little zap. Every time they touched the box and there was that zap, it just like felt like they were going to get Freaky Friday. You know?
There are movies that are worse about that, but that is like a peeve I have. But in general, I think it like works fairly well for it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I understand though, because there's like certain parts, especially towards the end of the film though, where again, I kind of told you while we were watching it, they actually started running out of money as soon as they were wrapping up production. So I'm sure they had to make a separate like cost and stuff like that. So really, whenever it comes to anything that I'm kind of like I don't know about that one and stuff, is the bum that Kirsty constantly encounters and stuff. Because, like, watching it, I thought it was going to have, like, a bigger payoff or lead up. Because, again, he doesn't pop up too many times. I think he only appears twice and stuff before he arrives the final time.
Doesn't get explained or anything.
No, not really. And stuff.
He's a bone dragon.
Yeah. He was Bone Daddy.
He wants to bone.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's what it means.
Yeah, and he had to eat a lot of crickets to get to that transformation stage.
He's a reptile.
Yeah, I don't know that he's a reptile. I think he's more like a caterpillar, right? He eats a bunch of crickets, and then he's off
and then he
for a while.
blossoms into,
and then he turns into a dragon.
Metamorphosizes into bone. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so, like...
Is that too much of a spoiler?
Yeah, we're kind of, like, jumping more into spoilers and stuff.
Are watching this episode,
this movie's
listening,
40 years old, man.
It's made in 87, so I understand, but also I think Hellraiser just falls in that weird category of people. I believe there's an even amount of people who have seen it, who haven't seen it, but know what it is.
True.
Especially Pinhead being so iconic and stuff. So I'm not sure if there was anything else like I needed to add in that regard.
I will say, the practical effects again. It's like, at least for the scene that you were talking about with Frank coming back to life, it's like super reminiscent of The Thing for me, and I like that a lot.
Gosh, yeah,
it's like on par with that.
No, it's The Thing and stuff, especially. Yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about John Carpenter's The Thing. Yeah, no worries.
The Thing.
Yeah, not The Thing from another world, but no, it was really good, and this is another thing I didn't really get to touch on, but like. The makeup and stuff they did was incredible and stuff. And so just to make Frank look as grotesque as he did and stuff, again, I told you guys while we were watching the film, it's actually not the guy who played Frank, but instead it's like this guy who's used to acting under like heavy layers of makeup, and he's super skinny.
That's cool.
Because again, you needed a super skinny guy, because if you're layering it up to look like a normal guy, you need somebody skinny enough to where you could just add all that stuff onto there.
It's got to be convincing musculature. And
all that. For sure. And before we get to our recommendation, Aaron, was there anything you like particularly liked or disliked about the film and stuff? I know with Texas Chainsaw, you were like pretty consistently like, all the way. Just maybe the beginning was but
I mean, we keep on bringing up that comparison. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, probably better cinematically, a better movie cinematically. Yeah. The universe of this one is a lot more imaginative. I like the council of the John Cena bites. I like and the mansion that they are in feels very like, it's a spooky mansion. It has 3 floors. That's mansion criteria. It's a totally Luigi's mansion.
Yeah. I don't know if it's that big.
I like that the dumb husband guy has never gone to the 3rd floor in his life.
True.
He thinks that a stomping goopy man out there is like just rats.
And he probably never went to third base with his wife either.
Right.
Like, she fucking hated him.
There's definitely complications with their relationship.
They should get therapy.
Yeah,
I think it's too late.
All right.
They can still.
There's a Frank and a Frank in between their relationship. If you feel what I'm saying.
No, I'm feeling what you're saying. And so
No, I mean, I thought the characters were fun. Definitely has like old movie acting, like old low budget movie acting.
The vernacular's a little bit different,
right? But I love it.
It's charming.
The characters are memorable. I think the house itself is memorable. There were enough like little funny moments in there too. I think it was a fun film. It was a fun watch, and it's one of those things that it keeps you thinking later. Not because it's anything that's like mind bending or anything, but it's just so creative. It's so different that you're thinking about it.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we'll get to the recommendation before we get to the spoiler part of the podcast and stuff for people that haven't seen it and stuff. Me personally, I definitely would recommend it for people to watch. And Vaughn, would you recommend it to like people or like a certain people, and what would you rate it overall?
I think it's a really good like niche horror movie. So I think like people who really appreciate the artistic form behind horror movies would really like it. I'd give it like, are we rating it on like a 1 to 10?
Yeah, just like a 1 to 10 scale.
I would give it like an 8, like a solid 8, honestly. Super good. A little bit stiff in some parts, but like everything else makes up for it. It's really, really good.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. I mean, I'm kind of with you there. Again, I'm kind of bouncing between like a 8 or a 9 and stuff, because again, it's like so creative, and just the fact like Clive was able just to imagine all this stuff. It's really good,
abstract.
but it definitely does fall a little stiff and slow at some parts again. So it's like I always bounce back on like really liking it and like you know really liking it. So
that's how I feel about like Children of the Corn. It's kind of written in a similar style. And there's a lot of that. It's like a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Man, I struggle with it. Like, I think realistically, like on a bad day, it'd be an 8. Great day, it'd be a 9.
Yeah.
But it just kind of depends. I feel like I'm going to go with. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the Cenobite designs are like a 10 out of 10.
Oh,
they're
for
fucking
sure,
cool.
and that's the thing
They're
that
so cool.
because like if it wasn't for the Cenobites' cool design and just all that cool stuff, I don't think it'd be quite as high. But it's just like their presence is known,
So cool.
and so every time I think about that, I'm like, oh man, that seems like a 9 though and stuff. So I think for now I'm standing at a 9 and stuff. Obviously, it may change in the future, but again, it's like up there with like Texas Chainsaw, where I could see myself watching this film again in the future and probably a few more times. Aaron, how does this rank for you? I'm curious to see like how this ranks and stuff, especially since this is kind of your second film into watching it, like all that stuff.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give it the Fantano rating here. You know, we're gonna be super critical about this. Okay, yeah. If we had to divide it into different categories, stuff like the creativity, even like the direction they went with the plot and who's the one doing the killing and stuff, and the way they do all of that stuff, I give it a mad props for. Yeah, I think that the like story arc itself was a little weak compared to the incredible power of some of the creativity and stuff. Even in part, some of the practical effects didn't hold up, although as a whole they were amazing. I'm thinking specifically of like the weird hallway wasp flesh thing. And the bone dragon. So some of that felt like, I don't know. But like overall as a universe, very imaginative, high props. It's just there's ups and downs when you start looking at the different categories. I'm thinking like high 6, low 7.
Oh, wow.
It's above average.
7 makes sense.
It's and again, I'm being a little harsh on the grading scale here. I'm not one of those guys that gives something I hate a 5. I'm going to call it a 2 if it's a 2.
5 is an average. So
right. So given the fact that 5's average, above average, it was a good film. It was really enjoyable. I would recommend it for anybody that's interested in practical effects in movies. Anybody that's interested in maybe a plot that's not so like spooky killer man driven, not so Jason or Michael Myers or whatever, but rather the spooky otherworldly type people are sort of like a passive counsel like you've been talking about. If you're looking for a different kind of horror film, if you're not a fan of like the traditional horror or like slasher genre or something, and you're looking for something else, I think I'd recommend it to anybody that fits those categories.
Yeah, okay, wow. Yeah, it's funny because I was curious to see how your number would rank to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so it's interesting that now it's just like you're analyzing this like in a different way from Texas Chainsaw and stuff, but I think for you and stuff, like you're kind of more familiar to this more narrative plot as opposed to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is just like pure slice of horror and stuff.
And for what it is, it's really good. This one is, if we're talking specifically storyline, plot, the arc, that sort of thing, even characters and character development, like as on paper, on a script basis, like yeah, I think this one is a little bit more in depth, a little bit more involved, a little bit more creative. But again, there are other areas that it falls short in as a full product. But again, I mean, I'm not dissing it. Good movie. I'd watch it again. I'd watch it with anyone else. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll jump into spoilers here and stuff, and really, I know we've kind of danced around this stuff, but let's talk about that Bone Dragon, shall we?
It's a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Yeah,
they summoned the Bone Dragon.
Yeah,
yeah. I do have to agree that like, even though like I really rank it up there and stuff, the thing that does hold me back is like, the story does kind of end a little haphazardly. Like, I feel like as soon as Frank is like wiped from the record and stuff, and the Cenobites are kind of like, you know what, we're still gonna take you and stuff. Because again, it's like one of those things like they typically don't do anything, and then they're giving like Kirsty a chance to like live and stuff. But
she
then
did open the box though.
Yeah, that's the thing though, and so they're just kind of falling on the great territory. It's like, look, I know we said, like, yeah, show us Frank and stuff, but you still open the box, so come here and stuff. But, yeah, that Bone Dragon, I wasn't a big fan of, and the first time I saw it, I was like...
It doesn't make sense.
No, it really doesn't, because...
You could tell it was a writing thing where they were like, we don't have a way for this cube to get back into circulation.
Fuck it, Bone Dragon.
So, Bone Dragon, you know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. And here was my thing. The first time I watched it, like... You know, obviously, there's a lot of, like, strong religious connotations. I mean, maybe not as strong as, like, something like Exorcist, but they definitely talk about heaven and hell a lot.
Yeah, a lot of
type
Jesus
deal. And so, I honestly thought that they were going to pull, like, a Bruce Almighty on me and have the bum be Jesus.
Yeah.
And stuff, because he has, like, the long beard and stuff. Again, inconspicuous. Although the cricket thing didn't make sense, and it still doesn't really make too much sense.
And that's how he fueled his final form.
So, yeah, I much would have rather preferred to see Jesus Christ himself than Bone Dragon.
It was really spiritual, but I feel like it was definitely a lot more Eastern inspired, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
They're like in this den, this like opium den looking place, trading mystical cubes so that they can do these rituals. It's, you know, it's very like... I feel like it was fueled by like the Eastern mysticism of the time. Like I wasn't saying like the special effects were Freaky Friday-esque just because they looked like the same little animated lightning effects, but because it felt really like the mystical Orient, you know, which is, like ooh, what mysteries lie when you seek too much pleasure and pain, you know, sort of that trope of the time filmmaking, but. Yeah, so I wasn't really expecting Jesus, but, you know, maybe Buddha.
I could have gone for a Buddha and stuff, and that's the thing that just kind of, I guess, is a little disappointing, because you mentioned that, like, you know, scorpion wasp creature and stuff, because, again, it's a cool design, but whenever it's chasing Kirsty down the hall whenever she first opens the cube, it's just kind of silly. It's just flapping its arms as it's gliding forward. It's, like, barely even touching the wall. Yeah. And then whenever Oh my god, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, gently caressing the wall as it's moving forward.
I know, just like going...
I don't know why.
15 miles an hour.
Yeah.
This might be my just total lack of other reference points, but it just felt really a lot like Videodrome. You guys practical effects in Videodrome.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Crawling down this framed hallway, you know.
Yeah.
With the homeless guy, sorry, I didn't mean
to no, you're good, go on.
With the homeless guy, all I was going to say was, I kind of thought he was like a death type character who showed up just because he needed to maintain the balance.
Yeah.
It's like the cube can't be destroyed, so he, you know.
He's very Odin-y to me, I don't know, just like...
That's what I'm saying. Right. He's like a mediator or something for the cube.
Yeah, I think that would have worked out better and stuff if he was like the Grim Reaper or Death itself and stuff. But again,
what I didn't get about that, because what you said, like the mediator of the cube makes a lot of sense, but then like why did he show up to the pet store and eat the crickets?
I know.
He's hungry.
Like Kirsty was not like on. Like, she hadn't had the cube yet, you know? She wasn't, like, discovering the bad things
maybe
yet.
because he was Death, he knew what was going to happen or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Who knew Death was Bone Dragon and looks like a marionette?
Hey man, it's death.
Oh my gosh.
It's not actually death. We're just spitballing.
Well, maybe not even like death, but like with the farrier of death.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The guy rowing the boat in the
the
underworld.
ferryman.
Yeah.
No, I could have gone for anything in all honesty, but like the Bone Dragon thing, I think that definitely kind of killed it for me. But I mean, fortunately, it's at the very, very, very end of the movie and stuff, and really, it's just kind of like it has a really good flow. It's just at the end where it starts to trip up. Because again, I think how she gets rid of the Cenobites is a little too Deus Ex Machina, and again, those hand drawn animations you mentioned stuff like.
Yeah.
I'm fine with like how they used it to show the Cenobites like disappearing, but it did look pretty cheesy and stuff. It looked like a cheaply made 80s music video.
Yeah. And it was definitely like, and I know this is a limitation of practical effects too, but it was definitely like speed Rubik's Cube solving to obliterate and they're just standing there patiently like, I'm gonna get you, don't solve that puzzle.
Yeah, see, it's funny you mentioned that because I was thinking that during like the part where Frank like tries to run towards Kirsty and then gets pulled back by chains. It's like, why didn't they just do that to her? They could have like chained her up and dragged back or something.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't really make too much sense why they don't do that immediately and stuff. Because again, they clearly had the intention of taking Kirsty away. It wasn't like
maybe they're just fucking with her.
They could be. They could be just messing with her, you know. But it's just one of those weird things and stuff. And I talk about the characters in the movie, and there's only one character I have a problem with where I don't even know his name, but it's Kirsty's boyfriend.
Yeah.
I don't think they say his name ever.
Is he the boyfriend?
I assume so, because they kiss at the early of the film.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Well, maybe I just wasn't paying enough attention, but when he was first introduced in the film, I thought he was like part of the family and not just like as her boyfriend. So I was like, I think like cousins hooking up or something. I was like, what is going on? And then later, like they never addressed that, so I figured it was probably just her boyfriend, but. Like, when they were at the table, it seemed like they weren't, I don't know, like they weren't supposed to be together or something.
Maybe that was something they thought about later in production or something.
I don't know. I could have just been a misconception, but...
No, and so that's just another weak point. Because he just shows up at the end, like he doesn't do anything.
No, that's a problem I had with the movie. When he shows up,
Yeah.
and like shit is literally going to hell, he just has no emotion.
He's
like,
so calm
He just
about
doesn't
it.
give a fuck about what's happening.
He's like, yeah.
And then
This
afterwards,
checks
he
out.
looks up like, "Whoa, like, let's go home." You know what I mean? It's like, are you fucking kidding me?
And the only actions he takes are like the objectively wrong one. He's like trying to keep Kirsty from solving this little Rubik's
Yeah,
Cube
she like
thing.
slaps him.
Yeah.
I love that part. Just like stop.
So funny.
Oh man, that makes Kirsty even a better character in my eyes. But yeah, so while I do really like the cast of characters they have, it's just I feel like the boyfriend was just really unnecessary because I don't feel like he did anything and stuff. He was just kind of there and stuff. It just kind of felt pointless. But I mean, really, I'm trying to think of any other spoilers. I will say the one thing that Hellraiser also does pretty good is doing stuff that's just disturbing. Like, of course, there's the gore and stuff, like seeing the hooks pierce flesh and stuff like that, or seeing, the corpses that Frank eats and stuff. But towards the end, whenever they decide to get rid of Larry and stuff, that whole idea that he's literally... Frank has taken his own brother's skin and put it on. Ugh. It's just really disturbing the more you think about it. Not only that, as soon as that happens, they clearly show Frank and Larry's body having sex with Julia. The levels of how messed up that is pretty dang high. Yeah. And stuff. And again, they don't really need to show too much, but it just adds to that disturbing aura that is Frank. Because Frank is a deeply messed up person. I mean, we've known from the very beginning, literally just seeing the state of his house
Yeah.
He's clearly a messed up
He also
individual.
willfully was looking for the ultimate pain and pleasure. That's why he opened the box.
No, exactly. And I think it's just like people like that who are just kind of like sadistic and masochistic and stuff, who's looking for the next high.
Yeah, exactly.
And stuff. So I think they're willing to try anything. And so I feel like tons of people are like that. And so something like the Lament configuration can't be appealing and stuff. So again, it's just the thing with the film and stuff is like it has these great ideas and these great moments and characters, but then it just has some kind of confusing stuff. But it's like almost for me, the good stuff kind of outweighs the bad to where I'm willing to kind of look past it.
And I think the movie's already so abstract that the whiplashy parts kind of like work in a weird way.
It does,
like,
yeah.
Even though it fucking is weird and doesn't make sense, it kind of like adds to it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. No, like I absolutely love their usage of chains as weapons and stuff. And whenever the pillars are summoned and stuff, and I absolutely adore the way the Cenobites appear in rooms and stuff.
Yeah,
like you see
cool.
the lights shine between the lines and the fog is rolling in. Like it is. Oh my gosh!
Brick
it just
walls open up like portals. Super cool.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like kind of. I guess I have the John Cena bites joke stuck in my head still, but it's like a WWE wrestler entrance with that. I mean, how many killers can you really think has like a grand entrance like that and stuff? Just like the fact of, they're coming.
Yeah, I can't really think of many.
And you can't escape it. Any room you're in just opens into this portal of the other world. I think that's what that made me make that Videodrome comparison too. Is just like this space, this rectangular portal opens up, and it's like, here I am,
Yeah. They would bend the world around him. It's pretty cool.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But was there any other big kind of like spoilery things you wanted to discuss about Hellraiser? Because I know we talked about, bone dragons and all that good stuff.
That's like most of the movie we've talked about.
Yeah, and I feel like it is.
A lot of it is just that like intense build-up.
We haven't talked about the killer at all. Julie.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah, and yeah, because I mean, it's like it's hard to kind of mention that she's killing people because again, it's like kind of a spoiler, but again, it's the thing that starts the film and stuff. It's just the fact that once Larry spills blood on the floor and starts bringing back Frank and stuff, and again, because Julia had that past relationship with Frank where they had an intimate relationship with each other, although I feel like I should use a better word than intimate because really it's kind of like a messed up intimacy and stuff
it's
due
like
to
a carnal relationship.
for sure. But I can really appreciate Julia's character and stuff because again the way she goes about it and stuff, like I mean it's not like she starts the movie off as a good person. She's pretty self-entitled already and stuff, but I mean she's not like scum of the earth level quite yet and stuff. But again, it's just one of those things that she's just so tempted just to get back with Frank and stuff that whenever she does start killing people, again, like the first time she does it, she's having a hard time. She doesn't know really what she's doing and stuff, and it's very realistic. And the first time it happens, she's deeply disturbed, but you kind of get to see the movie go along, but she just starts getting more confident. She has a system down and stuff, and it's kind of like a great progression as you see Julia kind of go from this like really kind of selfish, person to downright evil person and stuff. Because again, like because there is a point of humanity about her whenever Frank is trying to kill Larry and stuff, and she's like, no, please don't. But then whenever Frank, towards the end of the film, is like, we gotta take care of Larry, she's like, you're right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It's her getting tempted by Frank all over again, right? To do horrific things. The first time when he was alive and carnal, it was, to be fucking the brother of her husband.
Yeah.
In like a nasty, messed up, abusive way. And now it's, then it started with just the murder of anybody, and then it snowballed by the end of the film that her character was developed in such a way that she's like, yeah, we can kill my husband for you, right?
Weird.
Yeah, and the thing that's really messed up, and again, I think that Clive Barker did so well with the characters is towards the end, whenever Frank's like, okay, I'm going to kill Kirsty because she's clearly going to be a problem and stuff, and he manages to stab Julia, he doesn't feel a sense of remorse and stuff.
Yeah.
And instead, he decides like, I'll just suck the life out of you. Why not?
Right.
Type deal. And it's kind of sad in a sense, but it's also just really well written and just kind of stays true to the character that Frank doesn't care about people. He just cares about himself.
Super
and so,
cynical.
and so he's able to manipulate even Julia, who again isn't a good person by any means and stuff. So again, it's kind of hard to feel sorry for her, but it just feels like justly deserved in a sense. So it's just so well written whenever it comes to that character dynamic and stuff. And again, whenever it comes to the later, whenever they get rid of Frank, I feel like that scene, just him being strung apart by the chains, and the fact that he doesn't like scream or he's scared and stuff, like he
smiles. It's really creepy.
And apparently, like his final line in the movie was "Jesus wept," and that was actually improvised.
Really?
That wasn't the script.
That's
The original line was "fuck you."
Huh.
It's a better line, but also it doesn't make any fucking sense. It's very Christ-like. He's getting crucified there, right? His arms are spread apart. He's getting torn up for the crime he committed or whatever. It's very, it follows that spiritual aspect that we touched on. But yeah, what the fuck? Why is he quoting Jesus wept? I know it's the shortest verse in the
there
Bible,
was all the Jesus shit around the house. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and
religious connotation to that.
I think it was just kind of the way I interpreted a Jesus wept. Again, I haven't looked like super deep into this. I was watching the Joe Briggs and he kind of brought it up. But the way I interpret the Jesus wept thing is again like he's just kind of like laughing about the whole situation because again he's kind of a deeply disturbed person, and so again he just kind of makes a joke, kind of feeling like because the Bible verse refers to whenever Jesus is on the cross, being crucified and stuff, and it says Jesus wept. So I'm sure he was just making that connotation there. Because, again, it's like a really cool line, but it also doesn't make sense too much, so I can understand that and stuff. But that's the way I kind of took it, is it's like he's saying, fuck you, but he's kind of doing it in a more artistic way.
Yeah.
Like, he's just kind of cocky about it.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I think like that line just hits pretty hard and stuff. So that's definitely the line I remember. I mean, aside from Pinhead, which I know I told one of you guys this and stuff, but his original name wasn't actually Pinhead. Yeah, it was like Head Priest Cenobite, but people just started nicknaming him Pinhead, and Clive actually didn't care for it too much, but it's just one of those things where it stuck around so much that he's like, fine, he's
That's
Pinhead.
actually what happened with Pyramid Head as well.
Really?
Yeah, Pyramid Head is a colloquial name that was like imprinted upon him. His original name is Red Pyramid or Red Triangle.
That's why.
Red
Okay.
Pyramid thing.
I see why you mentioned that
by
phrase so much. Yeah, man. But and again, I think whenever it comes to the name, I know we've kind of gotten sidetracked. I think Pinhead is a fine name for him.
It's cool.
Like I said, I think it's cool. I don't think aside from the SpongeBob joke you could make.
Oh, you're calling Pinhead.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, Vaughn.
There's even a guy named Larry.
Yeah.
Pinhead Larry.
If only there was a Dan. Yeah.
That was the homeless guy.
Yeah, that's Dirty Dan. Okay.
And
on it. That wraps up the explanation of that.
Oh, for sure. Like, yeah, don't mind it. Dan the bum skeleton dragon. But I did want to bring up this one last point, and I know other people have kind of mentioned it as a joke and stuff, but I was talking about the Jesus wept type deal.
Yeah.
I pointed this out whenever we watched it and stuff, but I think it had one of the first and only Jesus Christ jump scares.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've heard like people like make a joke about it on some of the podcasts I've listened to and stuff, but again, I just can't help but find it so funny that they made that specifically a jump scare.
That was actually probably the only part of the movie that like scared me.
Yeah, startled.
So many of the parts of the movie like disturbed me, or like I was feeling anxious about something. But yeah, that was the only part that like startled me. I was like, Jesus, literally Jesus.
Yeah, and I think like again, I think that's why I can appreciate Hellraiser because again, it's not like super duper traditional horror movie and stuff, but it just has a lot of disturbing horror imagery and stuff and situations brought up, and so I think that's why for me I was so encapsulated by it because again. You know, it's kind of hard for me whenever it comes to ratings because I can look at a film and rate it from like a critical standpoint of like, oh, how is it as a film? And then there's just my personal taste and stuff. Because I mean, I'm sure you guys have movies or video games, whatever, that like, you know, isn't very good, but it's one of your favorites and stuff. So I think that's kind of like where Hellraiser falls for me and stuff. So I know we've already mentioned our recommendations and stuff, but for me it's still a 9 and stuff, and with Vaughn it's like an 8. And Aaron, you're kind of wobbling between that 6 and a 7 there.
Yeah, probably like a low 7.
Yeah. All right. Well, man, I mean that was a really good conversation and stuff. I know we ended up watching the movie like at 3 a.m. and finishing up around 5 a.m. So we were pretty well spent and stuff because we had a long day and stuff coming down to visit you. So thank you so much for being on this episode with us, Vaughn. I definitely want to have you in the future, kind of talking more about horror films and stuff.
For sure, I've got a lot to say about it.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. So we'll try to wrap you into the next episode, and we have whenever that'll be. I know it's kind of like up in the air on how we can coordinate that, given that we don't live in proximity. But you know, if
we can do it over like the phone or
do like something
media devices or whatever.
Vaughn on the phone. Vaughn, you're on air.
Yeah, you're live.
Do it on Discord.
I just think that Hammerhead's a really cool guy. Thanks for your input, Vaughn.
I like the triangle.
Oh man. And so I already have the next movie in place for us to watch. Yeah, I'm like already set up, and I hope you're ready for this next film. This is actually one of the first films that whenever I started brewing with the idea of showing you all these horror films, it was one of the actually first ones I wanted to do, but I didn't know how it'd be as an introduction horror film. So I hope you're ready to go on another trip and stuff, because we're going to be visiting a cabin in the woods here.
Nice.
Oh, wait! I just realized there's a movie called Cabin. No, not the Joss Whedon thing. I was trying to come up with
Cabin in the Woods.
I was trying to come up with something creative. You know, just go with a group of friends and stuff on a very groovy adventure to a cabin. Yeah, Scooby-Doo and the log cabin.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School, yeah.
No.
We're talking.
The Ghoul School.
Yeah, that's a movie.
Oh man, no. We're gonna be swinging ourselves to a cabin with our good old horror star Bruce Campbell.
Yes, dude.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely going to be a good one. So be prepared to pack your bags and get in your car to cross a rickety bridge to that cabin, because we're going to be popping the scary with the Evil Dead. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. I did it again.
They're not watching anything. There's no watching.
Yeah, you see,
eyes.
Like you got me thrown off there.
Thanks for
watching the inside of your
Thanks
eyelids.
for watching.
Make sure to like, comment, subscribe.
Next time.
All right, thanks for listening, guys. Yeah. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube, Castbox, or iTunes platforms to stay up to date when new episodes drop. Special thanks goes out to Vaughn for joining us on this episode, and make sure to go follow him on Twitter. His Twitter tag is @VISM777. If you want to see what Aaron and I are up to, check out our respective Twitter accounts. For me, it is @ColeKirkVA, and for Aaron, it is @AnimalGameDev. Thank you all so much for listening to our podcast. We'll speak to you all again next time when we're popping the scary.